In the past, Remedy has dabbled in multimedia for their storytelling. Whether this be Mr. Scratch advertising American Nightmare or Sam being abducted and held prisoner in the dark place, some parts of the Remedy experience are found outside of the games. One of the most well-known examples is a series of blog posts made by a woman named Samantha Wells. If this name is familiar, that is because her name could be found in the research sector of the oldest house. However, long before Control and even Quantum Break, Samantha was part of the Remedyverse. For any of those unfamiliar with her story, I will break down the events of her blog and attempt to provide some symbolic insight into her experience. On the 22nd of February 2012, Samantha Wells purchased an old house with the intention of fixing it up into her dream home. As such, her blog is called This House of Dreams. This is the very same blog referenced on the Riverport University Blackboard that we have previously discussed on this channel. She begins posting photos showing how run down it is and expresses her excitement to fix it up. The following day, she begins exploring the house and finds some cool things in the attic left by the previous owner. It wasn't until March 2nd that she finally slept in the house. She was kept awake most of the night listening to the flapping of wings. Earlier, she found a dead wren in the attic and guessed there may be one trapped in the walls. Due to their energetic and social nature, wrens are symbolized in Celtic culture as being cheerful and carefree. An attic is generally used in literature to represent the higher self or consciousness. Finding a dead wren in the attic could be an omen that Samantha's cheerful and carefree nature could be coming to an end. Over the next few days, Samantha was able to get in touch with the previous owner's daughter and received permission to keep anything she found left inside the house. Growing up, she had snuck into her grandparents' attic and felt it was a magical world, a place for lost treasures. During her excursion into her own attic, she found an old shoebox full of typewritten poems and a few photographs. By the 11th of March, Samantha uploaded the photographs she found in the shoebox. They depicted a woman helping her boyfriend into a wetsuit, and Samantha assumed that he may be a diver. Their faces were intentionally obscured by ink. Feeling that this was a great mystery to be solved, she looked forward to going through the poems in full. These photographs were of Thomas Zane and Barbara Jagger. It is possible the ink on their faces were in reference to the inky black smoke that covered the face of those who have been taken. In the subsequent post, she related a dream she had had about a federal agent coming to her door, demanding that she hand over the shoebox. He claimed it contained top-secret info. Just like the photos, his face was leaking inky smoke. Going inside to get it for him, Samantha was unable to find the shoebox. When she caught her reflection in the mirror, she noticed that her face was covered in the inky smoke as well before jerking awake. Thinking back, she recalls the man had a badge with the acronym AWE. Originally, the FBC was intended to be called the Bureau of Altered World Events. This was later changed prior to the release of Control. The other strange thing is that upon waking, the shoebox and all of its contents had vanished. Near the end of March, she was having some plumbing work done and went into the crawlspace beneath the house. Expecting something worse, she commented, "But there was nothing out of the ordinary down there. Nothing out of the ordinary in this town of ordinary." This confirmed the house she purchased was in ordinary Wisconsin. The same year that this blog was released, American Nightmare came out as well. Within it, a backwards message could be heard in Balance Slays the Demon that stated, as the events of the ordinary AWE occurred 10 years prior, it is possible that this was in reference to the events of the blog. After speaking with the previous owner's daughter, she learned that her mother may have purchased the shoebox at a yard sale. Since this house is an ordinary, it is possible that whoever owned the shoebox before lived in the same town as well. Since the shoebox went missing the night of her first dream, Samantha uploaded photos of them to her blog. In order to cover the important points of this blog, I will be covering the poems themselves in a separate video. On the 30th of May, Samantha had a second dream where she visited the nursing home that the previous owner resided in. Except, instead of a woman, she met a dark-haired man who was obsessed with keeping the light on at all times. In her dream, Alan Wake kept yelling at her to keep the lights on. Upon waking up, she saw a silhouette of a man outside her window and hurriedly flipped all the lights on. Feeling silly about it, she assumed she had imagined it and commented that with the lights turned on inside, she couldn't see anything outside. I found this an interesting image, as for those who reside in the light for too long, they grow ignorant of what lies outside in the shadows. The dark figure outside of her window could be one of two things. Was it a Taken? Or had Alan briefly transitioned over just as he did in American Nightmare with a purpose to give her this dream? A week later, Samantha updates her blog on the progress of the house and expresses that she is nervous to sleep now. Even after purchasing yard lights, she stayed up late listening to music. The choice on June 4th is a song called No Light, No Light by Florence and the Machine. I will link the song in the description below. One possible interpretation for the lyrics of this song relate to the idea that learning the truth can be a violent experience. Sometimes living in ignorance can be comforting. The function of light is to illuminate, to bring forth the obscure truth. Samantha appears to be at a threshold in her journey. She muses on whether to reject the light of illumination or dive headfirst into the violent depths of the truth. Barely an hour later, her blog receives a mysterious post before she goes dark, not posting anything for a full week. The post said, "Called 911, men outside, shadows, dark coming, help more light." The words ran together as if she typed it in a hurry, and she never finished before sending it. When her silence was broken, Samantha explained she had been admitted to the hospital with a mild concussion. In the post, she relates the events of the night. While listening to the previously mentioned music, she had reruns of Night Springs playing on the living room TV set. The episode was about a woman who purchased a haunted house. The narrator introduced the episode with, "She thought she had bought an ordinary house in an ordinary town, but nothing could be more out of the ordinary than this house." This would not be the first time Alan had modified an episode of Night Springs to send out a message to the real world. He potentially did the same thing in American Nightmare with Barry. Is Alan inviting Samantha into the story for some reason? Thinking someone was playing a prank on her, she went out to look at the TV just as she noticed dark figures outside her house. The power went out and someone smashed through the window. Samantha grabbed her laptop and locked herself in a closet while she called 911 and began posting. As the men stood outside the door, they jerked it open and she fell over, hitting her head. Before passing out, the light of her laptop illuminates the shoebox on the closet shelf. If these were taken, the light of the laptop is what saved her. Upon returning home, the shoebox was still there and had new contents inside. When investigating the break-in, local law enforcement reported that there was no signs of breaking and entering. Confused, Samantha wondered how and why mystery men broke into her house without leaving a trace, and somehow the shoebox suddenly reappeared during the event. At this point, she began to question her sanity. While there is no direct evidence to connect the two, the FBC did attain the shoebox at some point, performing experiments on it. They determined that anything kept inside was immune to any world-altering events. But the shoebox randomly went missing. Is it possible that they first obtained it after Samantha's first dream encounter with an FBC agent? And since it went missing, did someone steal it from the FBC in order to return it to Samantha? A month later, a mystery man contacts her, telling her that he knows what is happening to her and about the contents of the shoebox. He informs her something similar has previously occurred, and that if she stops posting it on her blog, he will tell her everything. This man warns her that powerful people would be interested in the box and its contents. During the month-long break in uploads, she thought about it and decided this was a threat and continued to post anyway. Trying to determine who this person may be, I was left with only 3 possibilities. The least likely option is that it was an FBC agent sympathetic to her. The next is Frank Breaker, a former agent of the FBC who resides within Bright Falls. This is the location of multiple AWEs related to the altering of reality. The final and most likely, in my opinion, is Barry Wheeler, Alan's former agent and best friend. He would be the one most likely to want to keep her safe. Inside the shoebox, new poems had appeared, as well as a title page for a manuscript entitled Return by Alan Wake. Also inside was a rustic light switch that, when flipped on, caused the power in her whole neighborhood to go out. The event was explained away as caused by a thunderstorm, but the timing was too perfect for that. Maybe whoever brought the shoebox back gave her a weapon to be used in case of emergencies. It must be noted that this is not the clicker that Alan used, but serves the same purpose. The final post of this House of Dreams was on July 29, 2012. In a dream, she was contacted by Thomas Zane in his diving suit. He was the author of the poems Samantha had found. Zane gave her his story, about how Barbara was taken over by a dark presence and how he wrote a secret poem to rescue her. Grabbing his corrupted girlfriend, he dove into the lake with her and witnessed both dark and bright presences move up to meet them. Just like Barbara surrendered her body to the dark presence, Thomas did the same, surrendering himself to a bright presence. This bright presence is the entity that Alan met throughout the initial game. The dark and bright presence rose up to continue their conflict, which Alan would become a part of. However, the essence of Tom and Barbara continued to dive deeper into the dark place while he spoke the words of a secret poem. The nature of the dark place allows any dream or work of art to be made real. As such, the poem created a baby universe for them. The souls of the two lovers arrived in it to live happily ever after. Waking up, she was overwhelmed with joy and a sense of privilege at being shown this. Innately, she knew that something wonderful was coming. Samantha Wells knows that this may be a long way off, but she tells herself that no matter how long it takes, she will be there, waiting. This concludes the events of this House of Dreams. The story serves to further connect the stories of Alan Wake and Control. It is my hope that at some point in the future of the Remedyverse, Samantha Wells will return.